Welcome, everybody, to another QB Power Hour. I'm thrilled to have you guys joining us today. We've got an amazing hour for you today. We're going to be talking about the EPIC practice, 7 steps to value pricing, and workflow management. Real quickly, we're going to tell you a little bit about the QB Power Hour and your hosts that are joining you today, the CPE process. We'll mention a few upcoming live events, and then the specific part of our session today, we've got Joe Woodard joining us to talk about the EPIC practice, 7 steps to value pricing with Mark Wickersham, and then Laura Redmond is going to show you how you can improve your internal workflow by using Aero Workflow software. So we've got a great lineup for you guys today. Really glad to have you joining us. As you know, QB Power Hour is usually every other Thursday. Sometimes we do them every week. We'd love to have you joining us for our upcoming sessions. We normally talk about half QuickBooks Desktop and half QuickBooks Online, but this one we're talking all about your practice management and things that are going to help you to grow your practice. So we're thrilled to have you guys joining us for this. As you know, my name is Michelle Long. I'm a CPA and the owner of Long for Success. Had my own practice for over 20 years now. I'm the author of numerous courses for Intuit's Academy or Accountant University, co-author of the advanced certifications for the desktop and online, and as well as 5 different books. You can check them out on Amazon if you want to. My co-host, Hector Garcia. Hector, you want to go ahead?
Hi, everybody. My name is Hector Garcia. I live and work in Miami, Florida. I'm a CPA and advanced QuickBooks Pro advisor, and I'm excited about teaching QB Power Hour and sharing some of the best practices with Michelle Long here.
Great. Thank you, Hector. And our special guests that we have joining us today, as we mentioned, we've got Joe Woodard, Mark Wickersham, and Laura Redmond. You're going to be hearing from all of them throughout the webinar today, so we're really thrilled to have them joining us. As a reminder, if you need CPE, if you need that CPE credit, you must be attending this live webinar, not listening to it on YouTube. You must be logged in for at least 50 minutes. At some point during the hour, we will give you a CPE keyword, and you write that CPE keyword down. And then towards the end of the webinar, we will give you a poll question where you would need to answer that poll question with the CPE keyword. Please allow about 3 weeks to get that email. And so just put a reminder on your calendar for 3 weeks for today to get that CPE certificate. As a quick reminder about some upcoming live events that we have coming up, I'd love to have you join me and Sandy Smith-Leva for the Ultimate Accounting VCon. It's an award-winning virtual conference that you can attend from the convenience of your own office. It's on May 12th or 13th, and as I've mentioned before, we've got sharks joining us this year for the VCon. We've got people who were on Shark Tank, and we're going to have them as some of our guest speakers, so you won't want to miss it. It's 2 days jam-packed with lots of great information to help you grow your practice. Just go to accountingvcon.com for more information and register there. We'd also love to have you join us at Scaling New Heights. It's coming up in May as well, down in Atlantis in the Bahamas, and all of us are going to be speaking there. Everybody on this call today is going to be speaking there. We'd love to have all of you to join us for that. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later. And then QuickBooks Connect is coming up again for the 3rd time this year in San Jose, California in October. Last year we had Oprah Winfrey there as well as lots of other people. Love to have you join us at QuickBooks Connect as well. Hector, I know I talk about 5 Ps and you're going to talk about 3 Ps today. You want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a big fan of Marcus Lemonis, and he talks a lot about the product, the process, and that sort of thing. And I kind of wanted to make a connection between what I learned from him and also the whole concept of pricing, which is very prevalent in our industry. So I like to talk about the 3 Ps of professional services: product, price, and process. Product, what do we do? What problems do we solve? What does the firm and employees stand for? What technology and platforms do we use? What is the end result of the product that we deliver? Price, but not just price, the value. Does the price reflect our value proposition? Is the value created for our clients above and beyond the price being paid, right? Because that's the most important piece. And also process. You can have a great price and a great product, but if you can't complete the work in time, if it's not accurate, if you can't collaborate with your employees and you can't communicate with your clients, it all breaks down. So as it comes to product, price, and process, Michelle, you can go to the next slide. We have three guests that are going to talk about topics that they're masters full of. Joe Woodard is going to be talking about the product, right? He's going to be talking about, what is the firm, what the firm should be, what does the firm stand for. Mark will talk about price and value. And then Laura will talk about process because she's an absolute expert in workflow. With that being said, Joe, I don't need to introduce you, but for the people that don't know Joe Woodard, he's the CEO of Woodard Events. He's the host of Scaling New Heights, which is a conference that's going to be in the Bahamas. He's a dear friend of the QB Power Hour, Michelle Long and I, and he's a mentor to a lot of us pro advisors. Joe, take it away.
Well, it's great to be here, Hector. Thanks so much for having me on. And I've got a little bit of a surprise when I start talking about product here in just a minute. But I do want to focus on the pillars of what makes a practice epic. And given the epic practice theme of this year's conference, I'm getting asked that a lot. Is it the same as how Intuit and others define the firm of the future? Well, there are definitely overlaps. A firm that's ready for the future and that has embraced the future is going to be epic and position itself to be epic. But I've got 5 components of what makes an accounting practice epic. I'm going to walk through each one very briefly, just spending a couple minutes on each one of these. And then I'm going to throw a little twist on what it means to have product in an accounting practice. So the 5 aspects of an epic practice are intentional, specialized, efficient, proactive, and effective. If these 5 define your firm, then your firm is epic, and then it's just about becoming more and more epic and building out on that epic foundation. So let's talk about intentional first. What do I mean by that? Well, an intentional practice is defined its vision statement, its mission statement, and its purpose statement. There are 3 separate statements to intentionality. The vision statement is your big, hairy, audacious goal, otherwise known as your BHAG. It is what you want to accomplish to affect massive change, either in the whole of the world or in your profession or just within your client base. But it has to be ambitious. It has to be audacious. It has to be not megalomania, but it has to definitely fall into that audacious category of I'm going to do something that nobody can believe I can possibly do. At Woodard, our vision is to transform small business through small business advisors. And what makes it audacious is we mean all small businesses in the entire world. And what makes it not megalomania is that we're not looking to do it by ourselves. We're looking to do it in partnership with companies like Intuit that has 130,000 global pro advisors, and then in the partnership with our own network where there are 1,200 advisors. So in this one-to-many reach, we can actually accomplish such an incredible feat. But then there's a mission statement. The mission statement is what you do, and it's often confused with the vision statement, which is what effect you want to accomplish. A mission statement is measurable and achievable. If I'm in the military and my commanding officer says, go take that bunker, and I start talking about how I want to further democracy and freedom in the world, wait a minute, that's not what we're about here. That's the vision for why hopefully we are abroad and we want to liberate people, right? So let's assume the motivations are noble in that kind of analogy. It's not time for me to pontificate about the benefits of freedom and how it's every human being's right. It's my mission to go take that bunker. And the only way I can measure success is whether or not I took the bunker successfully and hopefully lived in the process, right? So it's got to be defined, it's got to be measurable, it's got to be achievable, it's got to be repeatable. And it all has to tie back to the big, hairy, audacious goal that you have in your vision. And your purpose is feet on the street. Woodard's purpose is we empower small business advisors. It is what we do with everything we're doing every moment of every day. If someone were to ask me right now, Joe, what are you doing right now? I can say I'm on purpose. I am empowering small business advisors right now by telling them that they need to have a purpose statement of their own. So sometimes you're on purpose, sometimes you're not on purpose. It can come and go, meaning that everything you do, some of the mundane elements of life aren't necessarily on purpose. But if your purpose statement is your driving force and it's tied to your mission, it's tied to your vision, then you're going to be a firm with intentionality. And the last component of intentionality is you must decide who you're going to service. So let's move to specialization. These all bleed together. In specialization, I decide what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do, and what I'm not going to do is even more important, then I just decide who I'm going to work with and who I'm not going to work with on the clientele side. Every one of us tolerates clients that we know are not healthy relationships. I'll tell you the secret of why we do that. We do it because of fear. Fear that the absence of the client is going to cause a decline in revenue that I will never get back, and therefore the net impact of my firm is going to be harmful. Then we keep clients that are toxic relationships or that don't fit our specialization, which might be construction. Then why do we have all these retail clients? Well, because I need them. I can't pay the bills without them. And the reason you need them, here's the secret to specialization. It's not about determination. You've got to determine that you are going to do certain services for certain clients, but if you just leave it at that, it's a job half done. You have to market. People tell me all the time, I don't want to market my practice because I don't want to grow any bigger. Okay, well, that's fine. I respect that. But you don't market ultimately to grow your practice. You market ultimately to have the practice you want. And if you have a line of people at the front door waiting to get in that are the right kind of people, it's going to be pretty easy to push the wrong ones out the door. And then you're going to find yourself in a specialized practice. All right, so then after you're intentional, after you're specialized, it's time to be efficient. Efficiency. All right. Efficiency is not the ultimate measure of an accounting practice. It is just the necessity so that we can have a sustained economic model, so we can service our clients effectively, which I'm going to get to in just a minute. There is no effectiveness without efficiency because we're just going to be bogged down chasing our tails and on hamster wheels and everything else. So the best path to efficiency is technology. We have seen models where people have updated up to 80% of the accounting process through aggressive use of automation technologies. That does two things. If you're already a bookkeeper, you're already doing client accounting services, then it makes you more efficient and more profitable, but not ultimately more valuable. We're going to get there in a minute. This is an incremental step. If you're not doing that work, extreme efficiencies of automation technology revalidates the model, and you should re-explore it for incorporation back into your firm, because now the margins have sustained effect, and you can sustain the model economically across. But the most important thing about efficiency is it frees up your time, and it frees up the client's budget for you to focus on more proactive consulting and advisory services. And that gets us to our next one, proaction. So the Epic practice focuses on the transformation of the client, and it does it through forward-looking financial analytics, management consulting, process consulting, strategy consulting, the deployment of innovation technologies. We become technology curators for our clients, okay? Because they're going to have to deploy those on the ground operationally, even if we're doing the bookkeeping work. But beyond that, we now have tools in play. We have two things we didn't have before, unprecedented in human history. We have more clients than ever with accurate and real-time financial information, and that's because of the automation technology. They're simply more accurate than the untrained bookkeeper, and in some cases, more accurate than the trained bookkeeper. And through the efficiencies, they allow us to have real-time access. So we have the holy grail, real-time accurate financial information. Then we have other tools that do a lot of the heavy lifting for us on financial analytics. So we don't have to become schooled in that in order to provide meaningful information to our clients. Now, there might be times where you're going to want to throw it over the fence to somebody who's in the CFO realm. I get that. If that's not you, partner with somebody who is. But you can carry the ball a long way now with the right financial analytics tools. And the names that come to mind are products like Fathom, LivePlan, Web KPI. Just go out to apps.com and take a look, attach them to your clients' files, and then start giving them information that will transform their business for the better, so that you're not just looking back, you're looking forward. And then all of that will lead to a greater level of effectiveness for you with your clients. So ultimately, the Epic practice is an effective practice. You can read all of this bullet on your own handout. I'm going to boil it down as this. I'm going to ask, what is your product? This falls into the product category, right? What is your product? if that was asked of the Walt Disney Corporation, and they asked it of us when I went through Disney Institute, they said, what is Disney's product? And people were throwing out all kinds of things. It's a theme park. It's a movie. Some people throw out an experience, which gets a little bit closer. But a couple of people got it right. Disney's product is a memory. They sell memories. And it doesn't matter how you're engaging Disney across the whole of their corporation. If you're watching a football game on ESPN, or you're watching Disney Channel, or you're going to a theme park, you've created a memory that they hope is a positive memory from the experience of working with Disney. So I'm going to ask now, and you can't answer, I get it, but just answer to yourself. What is your product? And you might throw out a lot of things. My product is advisory services. My product is accurate financials. My product is a well-prepared, timely tax return. My product is a financial statement. Okay? None of those things are ultimately your product. Your product is your client. Your client is your product. The only question is, how good is your product going to be? Everything else that you're doing, all the technologies Laura is about to talk to you about, all of the bookkeeping work that you're going to do, all the tax return preparation you're going to work, all the infrastructure you build out, all the efficiencies that you bake in, all the excellence that you deliver, that's your manufacturing line to produce your product. Your product is your client. How good is your product going to be? And if you have the best product anywhere to be found, if you're producing small businesses and emerging businesses that are healthy and strong and transformed and growing and infused with joy instead of stress and weighed down, then the reputation's going to get out. Your product is good. And I want to, as a small business owner, I want to buy your product because your product is a changed me. That's what makes a practice epic.
Joe, I think that's excellent. And I think it's something we all need to hear, because a lot of us get so bogged down and complacent just getting the work done, like you said, just doing the bookkeeping or whatever, that sometimes we forget about our clients and the end result, as well as making our practice epic and to continue moving forward. So I think all this is great. I think it was just spot on. And I think this is going to launch right into the poll question here. One of the questions I would have for you, okay, Joe, this sounds great. How can I make my practice epic? How can I start working on some of this, get out of my complacency, and work on this?
To launch your epic practice, because we have not just themed the conference, the epic practice, because it happens to be in the mythological epic venue. Obviously, we tied it together. The definition of an epic practice is something I have forged out of years of reading the best authors, doing the best work possible, creating good product to transform client. And we infused all of that, plus the collective knowledge of great trainers like you and Laura and Hector, bringing your A game here. But if you want to either strengthen your own epic rules, finish out the 5 pillars, because maybe you have 3 of the 5. If you want to take this challenge, I'm going to be epic. I'm not just going to go to a conference. Okay, I'm going to be epic, and I'm going to launch my epic practice at an epic conference. Then, take a second look at those flights. Room block's still open. Pop in, because this conference is not your ordinary run-of-the-mill, walk around and just meet a couple people and learn a tidbit. We really will create an energy that will turn your practice epic.
Wonderful, Joe. And I couldn't agree more. And so the CPE keyword is Atlantis. That is where Scaling New Heights is in May. We'd love to have you guys join us. It is an amazing conference. It's one of those, like he said, you do walk away with lots of very tangible, very good information from lots of various sessions that are there. So write down Atlantis. Atlantis, Bahamas is where it will be in May. So just go to scalingnewheights.com and you can learn more about that. We will fix the poll questions so we can give you the poll at the end of this webinar. But for right now, write down Atlantis. And after this webinar, go to scalingnewheights.com. Check out the schedule. Look at the sessions that are there. I'm doing one. I'd love to have you join me, From Here to There, Transforming Your Practice. I'll talk about the 5 Ps. Hector mentioned 3 of them. I've got 2 more on there with some other ones. It's a great session. We've also also got Mark Wickersham that'll be there talking about value pricing. Laura's going to be there doing some training. So look at the schedule. It's one of those you don't want to miss. We'd love to have you join us for that. Any last comments, Joe?
Nope. Just thanks for remembering Mark. Sorry, Mark, I forgot about you. You're actually on the main stage. And so it's going to be a thrill to have you at the show this year, too.
And speaking of Mark, yes, thank you, Joe. I know you're in a hotel and at an event right now at some meetings, so thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us. We certainly appreciate that. And I'm going to go ahead and change the presenter over to Mark now.
So yeah, thank you for that introduction, and also great to hear from Joe. I'm really, really excited about coming along to Scaling New Heights. It's going to be really exciting. Just a bit about me, for those of you that don't know me, I'm over from the UK. I am the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Effective Pricing for Accountants. I'm a chartered accountant. I've been in the profession since 1988, so a long time now. Ran my own accounting firm for a while and then sold it as a management buyout. I've been teaching accountants for the last 16 years how to build more successful accounting and bookkeeping firms, been doing and focused particularly on pricing and how to implement value pricing. And it may be that nobody's heard of me, because until last year I've worked exclusively in the UK. I also work with Intuit in the UK, and I was very excited to be asked to present at QB Connect last November. So that's my first trip to the US. I absolutely loved it, and honored that Joe asked me to then present at Scaling New Heights. So very, very excited about that too. Now I've got a poll just to get before I start. I wanted to have a flavor for where we are as an audience. So if someone could launch the poll, I have one simple question, and what I'd like to know is just to tell me which of the following best describes the way that you currently price most of the time. Do you price based on how long the job takes and you're happy doing it that way? Or do you price based on how long the job takes, but you know you need to change to value pricing? And the third one is you actually price in a different way. You give clients a fixed price in advance before the work starts based on how long you think the job might take. Or fourthly, have you moved to a purely value-based approach and every single client gets a unique price? So which of those four best describes you? If you could do that now, and then I will see what the results are once that's been done.
And Mark, while they're answering this poll question, and if you guys could answer it quickly, that would be great. Mark, when we go back to your screen, if you could make that full screen when you're sharing your slides so that people can see that better, that would be super. So go ahead and answer this question real quickly. And Mark, do you want me to share the results with everybody?
Yes, please do share those results as soon as they're ready. And
okay, I will do that. So we've got about 75% that have answered this. Please go ahead and answer it quickly so we can kind of get a feel where we're at. And Keith says you should have hourly as a choice. I think that would be the first one, based on how long the job takes.
It is. That's what I mean by that. Yeah, charging based on the hour.
Yes, and then somebody said it depends on the service. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll, and we'll share the results so you can see those results.
Okay, that's really interesting, and that's actually not what I expected, but that's great. So it looks like that about half and half between pricing based on the hour, how long the job takes, and the other half roughly either fixed pricing or value pricing. So that's a really interesting mix. I'm interested by the 11% that think that we don't need to change. I think very clearly as a profession we do need to change because of the cloud accounting environment we now find ourselves in, and what's going to happen is as the work that we do, the data entry work, for example, the compliance work gets more and more automated. And if we carry on pricing based on time, when this work is getting quicker and quicker, we're going to see the amount that we can bill decreasing significantly. And I think accounting firms and bookkeeping firms that cling to the old way might find they go out of business before too long. We have to change and price based on value because the compliance work, the data entry work, the processing work is coming down all the time thanks to advances in technology. And so that was interesting to see. Interesting that a lot of people price based on fixed prices up front. And one of the things that I've found over the years that's a big misconception is, yes, a lot of people are moving from time-based to fixed pricing, but fixed pricing and value pricing are not the same thing. They are two very different things. And whilst we should be giving a fixed price up front, most people that do, that fixed price is based on a best guess of time, and time's irrelevant when it comes to value pricing. So what I'm going to share with you, I'm going to put on my screen share now. So
can you make it full screen as well, please?
I certainly can, yes. I would probably have to, let me just go with that. Let me just...
That works.
That's definitely better, thank you.
Is that better? I just need to fill my screen then with my PowerPoint and just make sure that that's okay. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a 7-step formula very quickly, but actually I'm going to do 3 steps because we haven't got enough time to go into too much detail here. But the reason I came up with this some years ago was because firms that I work with said, yes, we know we have to move from the old-fashioned way of time-based billing to a value-based approach, but how on earth do we do it? I think we know we have to do it, but how do we do it? So I decided to formulate it because we're accounting professionals and we like systems and structures and checklists, and so I created this to help give you something to use to guide you whenever you price anything. And I'm going to share with you 3 of the steps for now. And the first step, and I strongly recommend you write these down, the first step in the formula, before we give the client a price, the first thing we've got to do is decide what is our price discrimination strategy. Now, what on earth does that mean? Well, price discrimination is the economist's fancy word for charging different customers different prices. And this, what seems like a very simple idea, has profound consequences. We need to understand that when we value pricing, one of the most foundational points is that every single person values things differently. No 2 clients will value your service the same. So if you have a single fixed price for anything, I can guarantee with absolute certainty that you have the wrong price. So for example, let's imagine that you offer a tax preparation service and your price for doing tax returns is $500. That's the wrong price, because when you're sat in front of a prospective client who's looking to buy your tax return preparation service and you say $500, the probability that that's the exact number that's in their head that they're prepared and willing to pay is so unlikely it's almost 0. The number that they'll have in mind as the value of your tax return preparation service will either be bigger or smaller. If it's a smaller number, you will lose out because your price is too expensive and they won't buy, you won't make the sale. If on the other hand your price is higher, then the good news is that you'll make the sale, but you've still lost out because you've left money on the table. So what we have to do in step 1 is figure out how do we charge different customers different prices. And for the accounting and bookkeeping profession, I think the easiest way to do this and the most effective is what I call menu pricing. There are other price discrimination strategies we can use as well, and that's a story for another day, but the simplest is menu pricing. And what that means is we give people a choice. We give them a choice, and we give them, specifically, we give people 3 options. Now, there's some research done by behavior economists that show why we must give 3. It's what I call the magic of 3, but let's not go into the reason why for now. That's for another day, but we should do that. Your takeaway point is always offer 3 choices. And what's interesting is the most profitable company on the planet all do this. They understand it. So, for example, Apple, if you buy an iMac, for example, from Apple, they give you 3 choices. It's the magic of 3 because this gets a better result. If you go into Starbucks, the most profitable coffee shop on the planet, and you buy a latte, they give you 3 choices, the tall, the grande, and the venti. All the profitable companies do this because it works. So if you're pricing your services, let's say you're pricing your management reporting service or your bookkeeping, you should present the client with 3 options. And what you will find is when you do that in the right way, many clients will choose to pay you more money because they can see more value in the bigger packages. If you only offer an entry-level basic service, you are throwing money away. In fact, firms that I've worked with over the last 15, 16 years tell me that just doing this one thing alone, this one step, they're finding the average amount of money that customers spend, the average price increases by 20% just by offering 2 other options. So that's the first step that we want to go through. The second step, or not the second step, I'm going to skip forward now to step 5. We've only got time for 3. Step 5 is another question I get asked is, okay, Mark, if we value pricing, how do we come up with the price? Now, the bad news is it's not easy, because value is very often subjective, and of course, everybody values things differently. Nevertheless, we cannot go back to time, because there is zero correlation. There is no link whatsoever between how many hours you spend doing a piece of work and the value to the customer. Customers are not buying time from us. They're not interested in an hour of our time. They're interested in the result that we have, the solution, the value. So we have to find a better way to come up with price. And I think that for the accounting and bookkeeping professions, the only way to do that is using a software-based approach, because every client is different and there are so many complexities. And actually, in actual fact, when you use a software-based approach, and what you must do is involve the client in the pricing process. When you involve the client in the pricing process using a software-based approach, you have a number of benefits, advantages. The first one is that when the customer is involved in the process, and they can see how the price is being built up based on some questions you ask, then there's transparency, it creates credibility, it creates trust. What also happens is, and this has been shown by price psychologists, is when the customer is in control and they choose the price, they choose what they put in the shopping basket, they end up spending more money. Now, this software screenshot is a piece of software I've written for accountants and bookkeepers for pricing, bookkeeping, accounting, tax, and so on. And I have many, many accounting firms who are now getting sometimes double, sometimes 3 or 4 times the price from the same clients by following the process that I teach and having a software-based approach to come up with the price, involving the client in the process. So that's step 5 in the process, and in a few minutes I'll tell you how you can get a copy of that software. But let me share with you very quickly step 6, because this is the one that people get very excited by, because it's so powerful, and it's the price psychology. It's what can we do once we reveal that price to make the price seem much smaller than it really is. And there are so many clever things that we can do, techniques that we see the companies like Apple doing this all the time, and Starbucks, but we perhaps don't notice because it's very subtle. So let me give you a few ideas. The first one's the power of 9. Now, that nobody knows where this came from, but the point is this works. There was a research study done back in 2003 by Anderson and Semester, and they looked at the impact of ending prices with $9 in the retail industry, and they did 3 experiments. This was one of them. They looked at 3 different price points for a particular product, and what they found, which was staggering, is that the $39 price point actually outsold the cheaper $34 price point by 24%, which you're accountants and bookkeepers, you can do the maths, and actually the impact on bottom line profit is even bigger still, because when you increase price, it doesn't affect our cost, it all falls straight to bottom line profit. And there's been many studies that have shown this. So the takeaway here is that we should be using the power of 9. We should be using, not all the time, we shouldn't overuse it, but we should be considering the power of 9. So going back to the software that I created, what that does, it allows you behind the scenes to decide how you want to end your prices. Now, they don't all want to be 9. They might be the power of 7 is another piece of price psychology. But it's really important to choose the right price points, because $149, as you can see on the screen here, will get you very often a much better result than $150, because it's seen as being a lower number. Here's another idea. It's called don't reveal the headline price. This is so powerful. Basically, it means don't ever reveal the total price. So let's look at this. Imagine, let's go back to a tax return preparation service, for example. Imagine your price is $495. Nothing wrong with that price point, I suppose, but a better way to express it is express that same price as 5 easy payments of $99. It's the same number. 99 times 5 is 495, but research has shown that what happens is people focus on the 99, not the 495. They don't do the maths. And this was research done, for example, by Gorville back in 1998. He looked at the impact on how we see the size, the magnitude of prices when they are broken down to smaller amounts. I call it chunking down, and it's been proven that this makes a huge impact on our perception of the magnitude of price. So that's why when you reveal your solutions, always chunk it down. For example, if you're pricing your annual accounts or your bookkeeping, a monthly price rather than the annual price will be seen as being so much less. Let me show you very quickly in about 20 seconds the final price psychology idea, which is called the price order effect. And this was based on some study done by Suk, Lee and Lichtenstein back in 2012. And what they found was that they did a test with a bar. And in this bar, they listed the beer prices from the cheapest to the most expensive, and they monitored sales. And then after a few weeks, they switched it. So the beer prices went from the most expensive down to the cheapest. And what they found was that the amount of sales of beer went up very significantly. People bought more expensive beers. Now, there were two reasons for that. One was based on what's called anchoring, and the other one was based on what's called loss aversion. I won't explain the reason for now why, but here's the takeaway. When you express your prices, and it's the same when you read for prices from left to right, we look at things from left to right. So always present your most expensive option either at the top or to the left. Because what happens is when people look at the left-hand one first, and that price creates an anchor or a reference price that even if that's too expensive, in comparison, everything else seems better value and cheaper as a result of that. So there's three ideas for you on price psychology. So much more I could tell you, and I'd love to tell you. So I've agreed with Michelle and Hector that what I will do, if you're interested, is I'm going to run a 90-minute free webinar. I will help you for 90 minutes and take you through this in much greater detail. I'll go through the 7-step formula in much more detail, and I'll make it really applicable and practical by teaching you how you would apply that to pricing a situation where you're setting people up on QuickBooks Online. So in the UK, I've got accounting firms and bookkeepers who used to do that for free, because they didn't know how to price it, and they hope to make it up in the future with the ongoing compliance work. But now they're getting well over £1,000, over $1,500 every single time following a process, and it's so easy. I'll teach you that as a practical application. So I can see, I think Michelle's kindly put the link to the registration page for the webinar. I've got two dates in there. I've gone with next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, at an hour later than this one started. I know Hector said don't do it in tax return season, but I'm also aware that some of you might just want to get to grips with it sooner rather than later because the impact is so powerful. But if you're busy with tax returns, I'm going to run it again for you on Tuesday the 19th of April, same time as this. And so if tax return's busy, wait till the 19th. But if you want to get to grips with pricing sooner, come and join me next Wednesday on the 6th of April. And what I'll also do in that session, I will give you a free trial version of that piece of software as well, so you can start using that to get better prices. So please come and join me for 90 minutes online, and I'll teach you much more about pricing. Anyway, I think I've probably gone over slightly. I need to hand over for any questions.
Hey, Mark, thank you very much. Great job, by the way. So I'm going to ask you one question. It's kind of probably more like a comment, okay? So somebody here is saying that when they're going through this process of implementing value pricing, that it takes a significantly longer amount of time to price a client, to onboard a client, and it takes a significantly longer amount of time to actually get to the point where we can give the client a price. I mean, have you found that to be true, or do you have any comments about that?
Great question. Yes, it does, and it should do. The problem with billing by the hour is we relegate pricing to an admin task of simply adding up hours on a timesheet. But pricing is one of the 4 Ps of marketing, and so we have to think about it. Pricing is not simple. If we want to get the best price, we have to put effort in. Now, I've got many. I was talking to a lady called Michelle Riff. She's a bookkeeper over your side of the ocean. Michelle was telling me the other day, I've been mentoring her, and she had an opportunity the other day to price setting up someone on QuickBooks Online, a one-off piece of work. She said to me she would have charged $3,000 for that, but she followed my 7-step formula and recognized there was a better way of positioning the value and building up the value proposition. And she said the client ended up spending not $3,000 as a one-off service, but the client engaged her for $14,000 as a recurring annual fee. And that's $11,000 more, from $3,000 to $14,000. It's worth taking the time to do this properly. We should not rush the pricing process. The problem is we underprice ourselves. Most accountants and bookkeepers are way too cheap because we don't appreciate the value and the difference we can make to people's lives, and we don't spend the time building up that value. So we have to spend time, we have to spend longer, because when you then get the price right, when someone like Michelle gets $14,000 rather than $3,000, it's better for her, but it means she's now got more time, resource in the budget to do an even better job for the client. It's in the client's interest to charge the right price, so we've got the time we can afford to give them that brilliant world-class service. I hope that helps.
Yeah, Mark, awesome. I really appreciate you coming in. I'm going to join your webinar on April 19th after tax season, because I'm taking a break for the next couple of weeks to actually get that work done. Thank you very much. I hope that I'll see you, I guess, at Scaling New Heights in the Bahamas.
Definitely. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've loved it.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so let me get Laura on. Laura, are you connected?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Hey, Laura, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So we wanted to invite you over because, Joe talks about the theory, right? What makes an epic practice, all the theoretical soft components of it. And then Mark brings it a little bit further down into, well, it's a concept of theory and value. We can also use certain tax software and some mechanical mathematical functions to come up with a price, which I think is one of the things that Mark advocates. And then you, Laura, who are an advocate of efficient workflow and effective workflow, have worked with Aero for several years, and I've implemented Aero in my practice in December, and we have 2 internal bookkeepers. That's it, just 2 internal bookkeepers, and they keep track of everything they have. The other day, Jessica, my bookkeeper, told me, Hector, next Tuesday between 2 and 3, I have nothing to do. I was like, what, really? Like, what you're going to do next Tuesday, between 9 and 3, between 9 and 2, and between 3 and 4, but not between 2 and 3, and you're asking me to give you work. I mean, that's just amazing how we've been able to get there. So maybe walk us through how Aero Workflow works and how it ties into, having an epic practice and having, value pricing. And then I guess it boils down to project management and workflow management.
Yes, definitely. Okay, you want to share, you want to give me the screen share, and I can I'll just show Aero up on screen so that everyone can see.
You got control now. You got control.
Okay, good. And you can see, let's see, it says waiting. I'll give it a minute. So there we go. Okay, I'm so glad to be following Joe and Mark today because they're talking about subjects that have been so important on my firm's journey. And I hear it from so many of our colleagues when we get together. And this is the basis for why we built Aero Workflow. So I'm showing it on screen here. I've just logged in. This is a demo account, so I'm logging in as Robert. And when it comes to workflow, there's so much to talk about, right? So Mark was even talking a little bit about the sales workflow process, how to price things. But for today's demo and for Aero Workflow, I want to emphasize a few key points, is that workflow in general is a sequence of steps that make up a process for performing some type of work, right? And we hear workflow a lot, and it can mean a lot of different things like Mark's sales process, but here I'll be talking about the service delivery part. And this is, you close that sale, you've promised all these things to your potential customer, now they're your customer, and you want to deliver on that. You want to deliver on your promises, and you also want to make a profit on them. So what Aero does is it organizes workflow for the purpose of increasing productivity in your firm. And so this is the service delivery portion. And as I demo Aero today, I would like for you to both recognize the benefits of defining your firm's services. Joe talked about that at the top of the hour, and identify what can make the delivery of these services more efficient. So I'm going to start out here where we've logged in. Here I am, one of the users or one of the staff in the firm, and here I can see a list of the work that I have to do. And I'm going to come back to the screen. But first I'm going to jump over. There are a couple of places here I want to talk about first, so that when we come back to do our work, you'll know how that all got there. So I'm going to navigate over. You can create your procedures for how you do work for your firm, or you can use the Aero library. So I'm going to jump over and show you the Aero library first, just so that I can pull some of these up on screen as I'm talking about them. So we accounting professionals do a lot of work that involves very detailed steps, right? And we need a system to help manage all this work. And if you're thinking about value pricing, as Mark was talking about, you have to have a workflow management system. If you fix the price, you have got to control your costs, right? So so to do that, you want to start by defining your services and then documenting what your procedures are. So I'm going to jump into one just to give you a visual of what I'm talking about here. So you can write these up yourself for your firm, or you can use the Aero library, which has some of the most commonly used apps that a lot of us are using to do our service delivery for our clients. We've got a bunch of these already written up for you. So here I'm looking at one for QuickBooks Online, you know, how to, I call it work in the bank feed, right? This is how to use how to take the bank activity and record all your activity on the books for your clients. So when I say define your services, I mean spell out what services do you perform for clients? Do you do payroll or not? Do you do tax or not? Do you walk dogs? What do you do as a firm? So define that, and then spell out exactly how you do each of those services, what apps you use, complete instructions, do print screens, put in all the best practices. I'm not saying that you need to rewrite the certifications that are out there on how to use an app. I'm talking about spelling it out how you're going to do things in your firm. So picture, this is what I always picture me. I put my hands on my hips, and in my bossiest voice, I say to myself when I'm writing up the documentation, this is how we do things here. Use all the best practices, all the unique techniques that you've developed over all those hours that you have gained in serving your clients, and write out exactly how you're going to do things in your firm. And then make a checklist, which is sort of like a shorter version of things. So let me go back into
Laura, you mind if I jump in? Mind if I jump in real quick? Go back to the other screen where you see all your arrows. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, see, we also went through the process of learning, you know, a new software system. And I want to kind of tell you from my perspective what the
Mm-hmm.
software is, right? So we have a single system in which all of our clients are linked up to, you know, from our QuickBooks database. Yep. Where every time we have a one-time project or a monthly engagement, we load it in there. The templates serve as a task list, you know, of, you know, collect bank statements, reconcile the banks, send questions about outstanding checks, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, you as a solo practitioner or multiple people working on a client, they open up an arrow, they open up a task, and then within a project, they can be completing tasks as they go along. So if a client calls or emails and says, "Hey, what's the status of my project?" You don't say the proverbial, like we say now, "We're working on it." No, we say, "We are at stage 3. We have collected the documents. We're still waiting for XYZ."
So I'm going to show that right here. Let me jump in there while you're going.
Perfect.
So here I am, the staff person doing the work, but I wanted to show you and make it very clear that knowledge capital is so important. You have to define what you sell. And then you can set up all these tasks as Hector's talking about, and your staff can come in here, and just like you're saying, you start checking off every step by step. Now the work that your staff are doing for your clients is consistent, it's efficient, and it's effective. All of that is tied in because you find here, you've got links for them, taking them out to the resources. Remember the procedure guides I was showing you? You can link out right to that on any of these links. So if somebody's covering and doing payroll for a client that they normally don't work on, maybe Susie normally does this client, but Susie went on vacation. So you've got another employee that can just step in and do this work. Or maybe you've got a new hire. Or even for me, like I do payroll all the time for years, for 2 decades. I know how to do payroll, but I forget all the time to go check if there was a holiday during that period. So I can link right out to a Google holiday calendar and see if there was a holiday in that pay period. So you want to give your staff all of these resources, define your knowledge capital, define exactly how you do your work, how the services are going to be performed. That's our job as a firm. Then delegate it. And then watch your firm at work. So your staff can go through here. Notice the timer went on right away when I launched into this task. I've got places for notes. If you're using QuickBooks Online, all of your time tracking syncs into your firm's QBO company for QuickBooks Online. All the time tracking goes there. The clients, vendors, those go back. Those integrate. And then I've got more resources here, right? I've got information about the company. I have all the other work for this client. I've got contacts for the client. I've got any other time I put on this task. And then I've also got the vault with all the passwords, and there are different security levels, so you can hide some from certain users. So that's what we're talking about when we say organizing workflow and giving them all the resources they need, and really, really capitalizing on your knowledge and all of your experience as a firm. And I also want to tie back, you know, this really comes back to what Joe was saying, is when he talked about defining an epic practice. And so you can see here, and we do lots of longer webinars for anyone interested, that Aero can help you be that epic practice, right? Because this really helps you be intentional, right? We've defined everything. You can be specialized, put in exactly the steps for your specialty, how you want the work done. You can see the efficiency here. You're proactive. You're setting up tasks to be proactive for your clients, so your staff gets it done, and it's very effective.
Laura, can I ask you a few questions, or you still have other stuff?
Of course.
Okay. So one of the things that people are asking for the people that still do billable time, you know, as you have this project open and you're completing it and you're logging the time that you do, could you from Aero send the monthly invoice to the client of that engagement?
Not from Aero. We are not trying to take the place of the wonderful solutions out there. The time tracking will go to QBO, and from QBO, as you all know, because I'm sure you're all QBO certified, billable time will show up in the drawer of an invoice in QBO. You just pull any of this onto your invoice and send it out of QBO. QBO has the wonderful, you know, e-invoicing features and all that. So
okay,
we want to offer solutions for things that don't already have an awesome solution.
So Laura, the answer is yes. The way it does it is it transfers over
by
the
integrating
billable,
with QBO.
yeah, transfers over the billable timesheet, and then from the billable timesheet you create the invoice, and the billable timesheet is broken down by employee. Is it broken down by employee?
In QBO?
Yeah, broken down by
QBO,
employee.
you just see all the billable time on the drawer on the invoice. Or you can go to the timesheets, and you can definitely, in a report, you can do a report for time tracking in QBO, and you can group by employee, any of that. So all the time tracking from Aero goes to QBO.
Okay, all right, perfect. The other question here is, some of these tasks require client documentation. I think that's one of the areas where a lot of times we get stuck, where we're stuck in level 3 or task number 3, which is we're waiting for bank statements or whatever. Can you send the requests straight from here? Can you send a client an email saying, hey, we need you to fulfill this task?
Yes, you can. You can send emails straight from here. I'm gonna save and defer this task and go back out to my list to show you that not only can you send emails straight from here, yes you can. You can come here and send an email or quick links, but you can also receive emails in Aero. I mean, how cool is that? How many of us sit there in our inbox reading emails, replying, and we're not tracking any time on it if you're tracking time, or we're not really recording the fact that we did that work. And that is work. Email, especially from our clients, is work. So much of the email we're doing, most of it is work. And here I can receive an email, click on, I can read it, and I can reply right here, and it is going to mark it as time. I can mark it billable or not. So
When the client replies to the email, could we attach the reply into the tasks somehow, or?
Yes, the reply is related to the Aero, and it's all into the email, and it's all found here in Aero.
Okay, very, very good. So the other question is, and some people are asking, you mentioned it works with QuickBooks Online, and I think it still doesn't work with QuickBooks Desktop. It's not what this is trying to achieve.
Correct.
Correct. No QuickBooks Desktop.
Cloud.
Yes. Yeah. Right. The
And
name of the
Gmail. And
company.
the email I'm talking about here, did I say this is Gmail?
Gmail. Right. It's got to be Gmail. Right. So if you have something
gotta
else.
be QBO.
Right, it's got to be Gmail, it's got to be QBO. Now, my practice is on QuickBooks Desktop, and I still use Aero, and it's completely unrelated. The fact that they don't sync, I don't need them to sync, right? Because I don't use Aero to sync my clients' names.
Exactly.
I don't need to anyway.
We have people that use Xero. We have people that use other accounting software for their firm, and they don't. There's so much you can do here. I mean, I wish I had more time, because you can watch your firm at work. There's a whole managed dashboard. You can drill in and watch all the work. You can go get any of the time here in Aero. There are KPIs here. You can track the average cost. The average time so you can set up recurring arrows, right? Like, I'm going to do weekly payroll for a client. You set it up, you say, I'm going to do it weekly every Monday, and it's going to show up on your staff, whoever it's assigned to, every week on that day. And then you can come back and look at the KPI and say, on average, how long is that taking Charles to do this payroll? Sometimes it takes them longer, sometimes less, and it'll track those averages for you. So there's a ton of information, including time, like you said. So if you don't need it to go to your accounting, you don't have to hook it up.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and launch the CPE question. Okay, and while the CPE question is up, right? So there's a CPE question for people that need a CPE. I got some additional questions for you, and this is coming from the group here. People, they love Joe's presentation, they love Mark's presentation, but they know you're an active QuickBooks Online practitioner. They got more specific questions for you. So, so tying in value pricing and all that stuff. So you have a client with value pricing, and you manage them through Aero, and you start realizing through Aero, because Aero is going to give you that information, that the job is unprofitable. That means that you priced it wrong, that it's taking a lot longer than usual. How does Aero help you fix the problem, or help you drive into that conversation about improving the pricing with your client?
So Aero is going to help you determine whether you are spending too much of your resources, mainly your labor, on some work, and that you think that you would prefer a larger profit margin. So if you don't have Aero tracking the work you're doing for your client, then you don't really know, other than just having a feeling for it, you don't really know how many of your staff are doing work on it. And also, you don't know, it's harder to see whether they're doing work that's out of scope. Here, if you've defined what work we're doing for the client, and you set it up recurring, and that shows up on your staff's list, and they go to do it, when your client wants something out of scope, a new Aero has to be created. And in order for that to happen, a manager has to enter it. Somebody's going to charge a price for it, right? So it's less likely that you're going to do this out of scope work. If you do, or even if the work gets added, you can watch if it's marked as billable or not. I mean, you can come in here on these grids, and you can group by billable versus non-billable. You can group all your Aero or all your work.
Laura, the CPE keyword's still up, so don't demo anything. Just.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay,
right.
Sorry. But when you go into the Manage Aero section of Aero, by the way, in Aero we refer to as like an activity. It's like appointments, work, any of that, your email. So you can go into Aero as the manager and look at all of the work that's being performed. Like right now, you can go look at what's happening right now. You can see what's in progress. You can look at what's been deferred. And so you can also look at everything that's been completed, and you can group it by client. So this starts to give you that information to determine whether it's profitable or not. And then it's up to you to go back and use Mark's tools and for pricing and changing the price and getting a better price. But this is going to help you analyze how you're doing.
I'm going to close the polling question. We got 10 more seconds. I'm going to go ahead and close the polling question. If you have to go to top of the hour, that's fine. And Laura, let me just ask you a couple more questions so we can wrap it up, and
Yeah.
then we can invite people to, obviously, Aero, a software like this cannot be fully demonstrated or experienced in 10, 15 minutes. As a matter of fact, one of the questions that somebody's asking, I'm not sure if it's somebody that is implementing Aero or trying to, they're saying, how realistically, how long does it take to set this up? And if you happen to be a person that's never worked with a workflow software before, do not have a predetermined, let's say, set of tasks and so forth, how long is realistically the time commitment to build this up in a way that is fully functional, let's say for a small staff of 3?
Okay, so let me preface that by saying the software is quick and easy. It's very streamlined, very simple screens. We've tried to keep it uncluttered. The question here is not how long does it take me to set up the software so much as how long does it take me to set up a firm? Because what I'm talking about, setting up your knowledge capital, is so integral to running a firm. That's our job. If our staff's job is to do their tasks we assign them, our job as the manager or owner of the firm is to create the firm and create the knowledge capital and define these services and set out how we're going to do things. That takes a long time. At the least, it's very tedious work, but it's our job. And so that if you're coming into Aero with that stuff already done, then that's much quicker to set up. If you don't have any of that written, then, picture how long it's going to take, how many services you're going to offer and how long it's going to take to write that up. And if that's too tedious to do, that's why we've built Aero Library. We've got authors in Aero Library who are putting in some of the, we've got Expensify, Bill.com, some of these commonly used apps so that you don't have to do that.
And Laura, talk to
I
us
hope that
about.
starts to answer the question.
Yeah, yes, it does. Talk to us about pricing. How much is the software? What do you get? Depending on your company size and all that stuff. Talk to us about pricing.
Okay, great. I'm going to take you right over on our website, Aero Workflow. You can come right here and look at the pricing. Also on our website, check out on the homepage. We are having webinars every week. We're always having webinars. And we've got them recorded. So come watch us talk more about all this stuff because we love to talk about this. I love to talk about this.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It really, and it comes out of owning and running a firm this is our 11th year we're coming up on. And the pain, it comes out of the pain point of having to do this so manually for so many years and being in the dark and not knowing and just winging it and hoping everything was going to end up being profitable at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's my understanding, Laura, that you developed this originally in another platform.
Yep, in 2010, we wrote it in 2010. We had a big Excel spreadsheet for years. We used to have paperless, and we had a cool Excel spreadsheet I was so proud of. And then in 2010, I learned Method CRM. I love Method still. I do a lot of work on Method. I'm not a real hard coder, but in Method, it let me kind of be a user. It's a little more user-friendly. And we created it on Method's platform. And then a couple of years ago, people who were not in Method also wanted Aero. So then we launched it on its own platform, and here it is, and it's also in the apps.com Intuit App Store. So here it is on its own beautiful self.
Perfect, Laura. Thank you.
These are responsive screens also. You can use them from a cell phone, so
that's
just
great.
on the web.
They have so it is mobile friendly. All right, that's awesome, Laura. Thank you very much. We're gonna send.
Thanks for having me, Hector.
We're gonna send everybody an email with a link to the presentation, Mark's webinar, your webinar. I mean, between all the guests here, you guys are giving us so many resources, and we love it. And I encourage you to check out Aero. If you already have a great workflow software right now, hey, stick with it. If you don't have any at all, and your practice is growing and your value pricing, I find it challenging on how you're gonna actually make all that stuff work without knowing where you stand. Thank you, Laura. Real quick, we're gonna put a link there in the chat. I'm gonna send you a link as well. It's election year, and we recommend, and it's time to vote for your favorite QuickBooks Pro advisor. So I send the link. You thought I was gonna talk about Donald Trump, weren't you? Okay.
No.
Anyway, so we're gonna send you the link to this on the email. I also put it in the chat. The votes are on. Just click there, pick your favorite pro advisors. I am not saying you should vote for me. I'm saying you must vote for me. No, I'm just kidding.
And me.
And Laura and Michelle. Anyway, so some upcoming events real quick for the ones that stock on. So the next two webinars for QB Power Hour are going to be April 21st and April 28th. We are going to take a break for the next 2 Thursdays because of tax season, right? I have a lot of work to catch up to. So 421 and 428, advanced QuickBooks topics. As always, we don't have the specific topics. We'll announce them on the email. Go to Accounting Beacon if you want to go to Michelle Long's conference. It's a 2-day web-based conference. It's going to be during a break. We're not going to have Power Hour conflicting it or anything. I hope to see you at Scaling New Heights on May 22nd to May 25th. And you're going to get a different invitation for webinars that I'm going to hold all about QuickBooks Enterprise Advanced Reporting. And this is a follow-up of, I believe it was St. Patrick's Day, April 17th, where we did an introduction to QuickBooks Enterprise Advanced Reporting. I had an overwhelming amount of feedback that people wanted to do more. So we're doing 3 more. We're doing completely separate from QB Power Hour. It's going to be on Wednesdays. You're going to get a separate invitation for that for 25, 18, and 6, 15 actually. So it's the 3rd Wednesday of every month for the next 3 months. We're going to do QuickBooks Enterprise Advanced Reporting for those interested on that. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Mark, if you're still there. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for attending and studying an extra couple minutes. Happy tax season, and I'll see you on April 20th and April 21st, hopefully. Thank you.